Marc Marquez. He's the big story of the day today. I haven't seen the testing results, final results, because we did start here. I think we maybe started right as it was finishing. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I might try to scroll here while I'm chatting to you to see if anything comes up. But Mark, I think, has gone quite quick from what
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
been able to tell. And I don't know, I didn't expect any less, to be honest. Okay, let's have a look. He's finished fourth overall. So second fastest Ducati. Now I never ever really give too much of a shit about testing times. I think you can get a general idea of which bike's going to be good and which one's going to be bad because they sort of want to be at the top and want to be near the bottom. But generally, in terms of this guy's going to be quicker, that guy's going to be quicker, he's going to do. I don't think you can really take much from it. You know, I dare say Pecco did not push at all today. I wouldn't have thought he was on a proper. I don't know where he's finished either. He could have been the
He
one that was.
finished 11th in the end, Pecco,
So
but he
like,
what I saw, he packed it in about an hour early as well. He just
yeah,
sort of he did test quite a bit. He was back and forth between the old bike and the new bike that they'd actually turned up with. But I think, yeah, Pecco didn't really look for time attacks very often. What it looked like, he seemed to be out there for longer than what Mark was. Mark would do
mm,
sort of 7 lap intervals and then park
okay,
it back up, sit there for about half an hour, and then do another 7 laps and park it up.
which is
And
fine because like you're just getting a
yeah,
feel for the bike, right? Like you do that.
he did
Pecco's
plenty
there.
of time.
Pecco's on a
Well,
long testing development with this bike, and he's the
yeah,
lead guy.
that's
Actually,
both
they want to
ends.
know what he thinks about every single part they put on it. He's the guy. He's not going to be, so that's why I don't really look at times that much. I don't doesn't impress me that much. If you do well in testing,
Yeah, I
if
get
it's your
that.
first time on the bike or whatever, I don't really care, right? Because you don't know what everyone else is doing. Um, but in saying that, how how good is he going to be on this bike?
That's the
Is this
thing.
like title contender stuff? Like everybody's saying? I mean, I
I
can't see why it wouldn't be. I mean, but
The only thing, well, I was gonna say that Grassini tends to drop back, but then went forward towards the end of this year.
hmm,
So I was gonna say when Bastianini was fighting for the championship against Pecco on that Grassini Ducati, towards the end of the year when the factory bikes had all got dialed in, Bastianini got left behind. So, but I guess that theory's been ruined.
I think Digi's a weird case because I think it was more him because he was
He's
underperforming for so long. So now he probably just come up to the level that he
mhm.
should have been at. But where you
Alex
can occasionally
Marquez
podium and stuff like that and maybe get a win. But
Alex Marquez had that one great weekend in Malaysia as well towards the end of the season, but the rest of it was worse than his results had been all season. Like, he sort of dropped off compared to the factory boys, so I guess there is the
mm,
argument that maybe where he's on a year-old Ducati, the bike might drop off towards the end, but will he make that difference is, I guess, the big question.
yeah, yeah.
And
And I,
he'll
I've,
win
I'm
races.
I'm still torn on this. I'm torn on this. I Because the assumption is, I think, and it might be right. Um, it's the same mark, but the Honda's been obviously so bad. But is it the same mark? Because he's come back from a lot of injuries. I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that maybe he's not, if top tier mark, 100% of what mark is it just, is it 90% of that guy now? Now, if you're looking at like 2019 mark or 2018 mark or whatever, he couldn't still be doing that. He couldn't be, as the injuries he's had, a little bit older. Maybe that makes a difference. I don't know. Um, um, you know, having the experience he's had with like losing confidence completely with a bike, you know, are you the same guy after all? I mean, he could still, he's a freak. So he could still just turn up and be like, all that was the problem wasn't my arm. It wasn't my fucking eyeball coming out of my head or whatever the fuck was happening to him. All these injuries he's had and all that. It literally was just he didn't like that bike and it was shit. I don't know. I think it's different landscape now to when before he had that crash and and completely ruined his arm. It's a different landscape now with the Ducati guys. A lot of the younger guys in there, and Pecco. I know he's got his flaws and his faults, but he generally can, like I've mentioned earlier, sort it out over a
Mhm.
weekend. That he's always there or thereabouts. You know, so I don't think it's as straightforward as people think it will be. Like, well, he's the fastest guy, and now he's on the fastest bike, which that makes him the world champion. I don't know if it is like that, but I mean, it's one of those things you can't predict. Only time's going to be able to tell us that. But I wouldn't be going off these tests. People got very excited today on Twitter when he was set and went up to second, and he was top Ducati for a while, and he's finished fourth. I'm like, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, especially after watching all 7 hours of the test today, uh, I wouldn't read too much into it because Maverick was out there. Maverick set his best time on this year's Aprilia. Brad Binder set his best time on this year's KTM. Uh, Pecco didn't push at all. Jack Miller tried about 57 new front fairings that were all coloured like a zebra. Trying to think who else was. Fabio Quartararo was testing all day. Who else out there was trying different things? Bez obviously has his new this year's Ducati spec to learn as well now. Um, so yeah, there's all these different variables when you look through that aren't that you can't really look into yet. And I'm sure Martin as well is probably going to have. He had two crashes today as well, by the way, in testing Martin. He absolutely ruined one of the new Ducatis. Um, but I'm sure he's going to have to test some things now that he's proven he's a championship contender. I'm sure
Mm,
Ducati turned up with a box of parts for him today, and we're like, "Here you are, you're
yeah,
testing this year." Zarco's gone.
yeah,
Bastianini has been so inconsistent throughout the season. You now have to learn how to test a MotoGP bike and not have everything just given to you because Zarco said it's okay. Like
yeah,
you're
yeah.
that man now in the satellite team.
Mm. Yeah, well,
So
with his teammate, Frankie's new on the bike, so
yeah,
he's just his
he
job
can't do
today
it.
is not to probably test that many parts. It's just to like get a hang of it, mate. Like,
He was straight
so
out on the new one as well.
oh, fantastic, good.
Yeah,
I'm a big Frankie guy. I still think there's something there for him. I think there's something there. I want to see him do well. I do want to see him do well.
so
So, Mark, we're not sure if he's going to be the world champion or not.
he,
That's where we're at.
he will win races.
Yeah, I think if Fabio Di Gianantonio can win races, I think he can win races.
Yeah, Mark will win. How many will he win though in a 20 race season? Mark will win at least 5 Grand Prix,
Are you
I think.
feeling like could he be like the Martin, where he's just like I'm a sprint guy? Think he'll take to that?
I don't know. Mark's I'm trying to think how good he's been in sprints, really. He's not really been,
I thought he'd be a lot better, but again, it's hard to tell with that Honda.
and when he's been injured as well, because he's battered himself about all season. So that's a bit what he had. Oh no, he had one, two, three sprint podiums. The rest of the time he didn't really do anything in sprints. So I guess, form is there from the sprints he finished in the top
Yeah,
9. But I don't know with Mark. It's gonna be one of those where, because obviously we've had in the past Rossi go to Ducati and the bike was awful at the time. Rossi go to
mhm,
Yamaha and the bike was awful at the time. And he turned around the Yamaha. But then there's also the thing that Mark could go to this bike that seemed to be great, look really good at the first test, and then lose his confidence very early on with a crash or something. And a big crash on a Ducati, but I don't think Mark will. Mark's a peculiar one for me. I as
yeah.
much
I honestly don't know what to expect. I'm not
It
fully
could
on
go either
board with
way.
this. Like he's going to be world champion, but I also could not rule it out.
I think there is the chance that he will win his ninth title, but I don't think it'll be as comfortable as everyone else is making out. I
Yeah,
think either Ducati will get in the way themselves because they've made it pretty clear that they don't like Mark, um, or Pecco, Martin, Digi, Bez. Bez doesn't like him now, so there's going to be that Ducati
yeah.
rivalry going on there. So you've got all of
And I do
those coming
think
on.
I do think that when push comes to shove, when you're getting into races like that, Mark's back at the front on the same bike as a lot of these young guys, these Italians and stuff like that,
Oh yeah,
idolizing Rossi and coming through the system with his teams and stuff. I think they'll probably throw the odd dangerous move in on him.